Thank you so much, Ja. I find that so interesting, this answer centering communication as sort of a key factor of achieving peace. I feel like in many cases when we talk about something as abstract and, big as world peace, the interventions we so often hear are about these wider, larger actions, whether it's things like ending world hunger or whatnot. But to talk about something so simple as just being able to have honest and well-facilitated communication between people from all walks of life, I find that so refreshing. Now, Mary, I want to ask you the same question as well. I'm curious to see where, in your eyes, the Global Assembly sits in relation to your comments about the importance of peace. Do you think the Global Assembly can be an instrument of bringing about peace?
Of course, it can. For me, Global Assembly is hope. Hope for changing the process of negotiation. Hope for making civil society an effective part of tackling climate change. I do believe in inclusive dialogue to accelerate the negotiation. As a Syrian citizen, I want to thank the Global Assembly to allow Syrian youth to get involved in this issue after being excluded from many global negotiations. There are many members. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary, we can hear you, please.
Okay. There are many members in the Global Assembly who are from conflict zones. Giving them the opportunity to be heard is a great step toward peace. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mary. I think the honor is as much ours as it is yours for you to have been involved in the Global Assembly. And if anything, platforms such as this, where you can share about those experiences, really enable you, I think, to be a pollinator of some of these really powerful experiences you've had. And I think that's a really great segue into the last question, unfortunately, that we have on this panel, really bringing it back for this last question to the experiences that you have had throughout the Global Assembly. Clearly, this interaction, whether it was with your community host organization, Mary, or in your case, Ja, with your friend who alerted you to the Global Assembly and enabled you to be recruited into this process. Since that point, it seems that your lives have changed in transformational but also more intimate ways. And so for this last question, I want to start with you, Mary. How has your life changed since participating in the Global Assembly, and what do you hope the audience will take away from what you've shared today?
Before being a member of the Global Assembly, I had modest knowledge about climate change. My experience with the Global Assembly helped me to extend this knowledge, to become a person who cares more about nature, a person who thinks profoundly about the impacts of climate change crisis on our lives and how climate change directly attacks our rights as human beings. I hope one day we could end conflicts against each others and against our planet. That's what I hope from all events about climate change and climate change and peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's such a shame that we weren't able to see you in video today, but thank you so much for your incredibly insightful comments and for joining us today, Mary.
Thank you.
Now, Ja, I want to ask you to close us off by also sharing on this question. How has your life changed since participating in the Global Assembly, meeting your fellow assembly members, engaging in deliberations? And what do you want the audience to take away from what you have shared today on this panel? Ja, please.
好的，首先在日常生活当中呢，在平常的生活中，首先我之前是一个不太会骑自行车的人，就是我没有进行过这方面的学习。但是经过我们的会议，我认为 就是绿色出行这方面是非常重要的。那么在中国呢，像存在共享自行车、共享电动车、共享汽车这些是非常常见的。那这一方面也是非常有利于我们对于环境的一个保护。那么为此呢，我也主动去学习了这方面的一些知识。同时呢，我在线上也会经常关注有关于气候和环境保护的新闻。在平常我可能在会议之前并不会太多的关注这方面的内容，但是呢，在参加会议之中，包括会议结束之后，我包括我身边的朋友都会有意识无意识的去看一些相关的新闻，包括在我们的一个会议小组的群中，我们也会经常分享我们各地不同的对于环境气候保护的现状和看法。那么我也会带动身边的人去进行一个环境保护的作为，比如说我们会经常去讨论相关的话题，那么这些在之前都是从来没有过的。我很感谢会议带给我的这些内容，那我也会把这些知识带给我身边的朋友、家人，包括我能分享到的一个群体。我也愿意用我的力量去，哪怕很微小，我也愿意去通过我的力量向大家传播气候和环境保护知识。没有什么了，谢谢。
Firstly, my lifestyle changed. My lifestyle became into a low carbon lifestyle. Before the Global Assembly, I seldom ride bicycles because I don't like it. But after attending the Global Assembly, I'm aware of the importance of environmental protection and climate action. So I changed my living habits, and I learned to ride bicycles because I didn't know how to ride bicycles before. This is one of my changes. And second, in my daily lives, I will follow news about environmental protection, about COP26, which I paid less attention to before because I didn't aware of the urgency of our environment and the urgency of climate change. So I will share news and updates about the situation of environmental protection with my friends. And even the environment protection of the topic becomes a topic we will discuss a lot. When in my homework, I even I will choose topics which is related to environment protection and climate change. So this is my second changes. And the third changes I want to share is I will persuade my parents, my friends to take action to reduce activities which consumes a lot of energies. And my parents and my friends also raise their awareness of environment protection. Yes.
Ja, Mary, thank you so much for your insights and sharing so generously with us today. I can only say it must be as much of an honor for our audiences as it is for me to have heard some of your precious experiences and fascinating insights being the inaugural Assembly members of the Global Assembly. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Mary and Ja. So in closing, thank you so much. I think as Mary and Ja have begun to highlight throughout the extent of this panel, citizens' assemblies can fundamentally affect the participants who are selected by lottery and ask them to become creative problem solvers, active citizens, and even policymakers. As Mary and Ja have pointed out, when provided with the conditions or the context, such as a learning journey, expert facilitation for respective and productive dialogue, all citizens can and do become informed and unique deliberators on big issues. And one of the reasons why it is so critical that we hear from participants like Mary and Jia is so we can learn from their experiences to expand our imaginations of who is a decision maker and who is a policymaker. We asked you in the beginning of this session to think about a decision-making space that you know of and imagine the people who are populating it. I know the person that comes to my mind when asked that question has changed drastically since meeting Mary, since meeting Jia, and all of the other assembly members, and observed the incredible work that they have done. It is my hope that today, hearing from Mary and Jia have not only given you new ideas, new solutions to be thinking about in relation to climate change, many more of which you'll hear from the lineup of incredible speakers following this panel, but even before that, thinking about the solutions themselves, before thinking about the solutions themselves, I hope you will take away from this panel a new lens to consider who is making those solutions, who is missing from the governance table, the decision-making spaces, and who can be empowered in the future and the present to be decision makers, to be policymakers on the climate and ecological crisis. I invite you, as we close out this panel, to read the full People's Declaration online, some of which Mary and Jia has shared today. Stay tuned for the official report detailing our process, and most importantly, keep your eyes peeled for other events throughout this year where Assembly members will be advocating for their declaration by following our socials, which you can find on globalassembly.org. Thank you so much for being with us today. Mary and Jia, huge thank you again for joining us. We have an incredible lineup for the rest of today's Peace One Day event, which we hope you will stay tuned for. Thank you very much.